Hey guys, Sir Salverston, Richard here. I want to go ahead and spend a little bit of time talking about the last minute personnel moves on the Las Vegas Knights by George McPhee. A lot of wild stuff going on that's got some people shaking their heads. And you know what? I think the reaction to him has been a little bit crazy and overblown. Because even though some of them are surprising to a lot of people, if you really get down to the nitty-gritty of what's going on in preseason and in training camps and the preseason games, it makes a lot of sense. One of the biggest things that shocked a lot of people was Shippy. Very much considered to be the best, most talented member of the team, the one that a lot of people thought were going to be the driver of the offense this year, sent down to Chicago and not on the main team in Las Vegas. And people are just shocked. But if you really looked at what was happening in the preseason and in practices, it's really not that surprising, at least to me. I was not expecting it to go down, but I'm not surprised. The main reason is, if you really look at it, is he was having a lot of problems in practice, and he was having a lot of problems in the games adjusting to the NHL game. The rinks here are smaller than in Russia, where he was working on. It means the game is quicker, not necessarily faster, but quicker. People are on you sooner. You don't have as much room. You have to make your decisions much faster. And he was struggling a little bit. He was holding the puck a little bit too long. He was giving the puck away a little bit too much. And he was obviously very uncomfortable, both in the practices and also in the preseason games that he spent some time in. But I think the most damning things is he obviously has some holes in his games. The most egregious one that has just been horrible has been his face-offs. He has been a disaster in face-offs. In fact, the last preseason game, he took 6 face-offs and lost every single one of them. And that's was just not a one-game thing. That has been consistently across everything he's been doing. He has been having a horrible time doing face-offs with NHL rules and the way that they have been officiating face-offs this year. Why is that so bad? Well, there is not going to be a game this year in which the Las Vegas Golden Knights are going to have the greatest talent. Not a one. Even though I do personally believe that McPhee and Gallant have done a pretty good job of getting a competitive team together, they're still going to be out-talented by every team that they face. So to be able to win, they got to do the dirty stuff. They're going to have to forecheck. They're going to have to backcheck. They're going to have to block shots. They're going to have to get in and get those things doing. And they can't afford to give the puck away. They can't afford to give the puck away because they're hesitant on the pass. They can't afford to let the other team win all the face-offs to get extra chances at the puck. That'll kill any team that has to grind out possession as much as the Golden Knights are going to have to do this year. And even though it's possible that Shippy would be able to manufacture a few goals, he'd probably end up giving away a whole lot more goals simply because the way the state of his play is right now. And so that's why I really do believe McPhee made the decision to send him down to Chicago, give him a little bit more time to get his feet and his mind and his stick adjusted to the North American game before he actually comes back up to the home team. I really do expect that he won't be down that long, probably just a couple of weeks to give him just a bit more time, but that's where it is for him. The other one that's a really big one that people thought was shocking was Pickard. They took him from the Colorado Avalanche and was expected to be the backup goalie with a chance to turn into the goalie of the future after having been mentored by the Vegas coaching staff and also by Fleury for a few years. And everyone agrees he's definitely has some talent. But again, sort of like Shippy, he has a lot of holes in his game. And maybe some of that was from his time he spent last year in the Avalanche, which was such a terrible, terrible situation. Had a horrible defense in front of him, shipped away a lot of goals. But even though his numbers were really bad at Colorado, I think everybody who played goalie on that team last year was going to have some horrible numbers. And he actually had the most wins of any goalie on that team. And the problem is that, well, there wasn't a lot of choices for Colorado because there wasn't a lot of talent there. The choices that they had to pick it up wasn't big. And so Pickard was one of those choices that they did in that expansion draft, where it was kind of, let's take a chance on the guy. He has an upside. If we can go ahead and trade him up, he could be a serviceable goalie, maybe a backup. Maybe we can train him up to be a future number one. Depends on what works out. And in the expansion draft, Las Vegas, George McPhee and his staff did a lot of that. They went ahead and didn't necessarily go with the easy, safe pick. They went with some that are, possible home run. We may not win all of them, but if we can get one or two of them to go, it'll work. Now, I don't know what happened. They only had him for a few weeks between preseason and the games and that sort of thing. But they had him going in as being the number two, potential to being the future number one. And somehow in the few weeks that went along, they looked at him, the staff worked with him, and whatever it was, something changed their mind on Pickard. And whether it was coachability, whether it was problems in his game they decided he probably would not be able to work on or improve, maybe it was work ethic, who knows. Something happened that made them decide that Pickard was not the higher level ceiling that they thought he might be. So Subban became available, another guy who is a high ceiling, still has issues, but they went ahead and traded Pickard, passed him through waivers, got Subban, basically got a very similar sort of goalie who's got issues in his game but has a ceiling that could be high. Hopefully there's a coachability factor or something that would get him so that if he's in an environment that the Golden Knights can provide, he could reach the ceiling that people hope for him. But they also got a 6th round pick, and they also got Lindstrom, who is basically, his ceiling is probably a third line forward. So actually, that's, when you look at it that way, that's not a bad piece of work. They took a risk on a guy. Probably it didn't work out, but they did get some stuff out of it. They're actually probably a little bit ahead of what else they could have gotten from the Colorado Avalanche, because during the expansion draft, the pickings were kind of grim. So they got another draft pick out of it. They got a serviceable forward to go ahead and help expand the depth of the pool that they are building up, not only for now but also into the future, as far as both the Golden Knights and the Wolves. And at the same time, they got another project who has the potential to become the future goalie once Fleury is no longer with us. So I think that was some good business. The rest of them, like Theodore and Tuch going to the Wolves, that was simply a numbers game. Simply figuring out who fits with who, and they got the odd man out. I don't like the idea of either Tuch or Theodore going down, but on the other hand, who else would you have sent that would have been a better idea? And so there we are. I think Theodore and Tuch would have made an improvement on special teams, especially the power play, which Las Vegas has been struggling so much. But you have to make decisions. And again, It's not like they're all-stars potentially this year or anything like that. They are still developing. They still have the potential to be good, solid players, and to, if they work hard, they can go ahead and get in. I believe that all of them, Theodore, Tuch, Shippy, and all the rest of them, are going to eventually spend time on the main team, and probably within a few weeks, as things shake out, injuries hit, and things like that are just the normal of an NHL season. So we'll have to see. So I'm not screaming like a lot of people at over Shippy or over what happened with Pickard or anything like that. I think it's fairly reasonable with what they had. Could Shippy and Pickard kept on the main team? Yeah, but that would have caused its own issues about, well, who else do you send down? What do you do with the fact that they do have their holes in their game that need to be worked on? And again, in Pickard's situation, it really looked, just from the way things were going with me, that the Golden Knights brought him in, did an evaluation, and decided, you know what, it was a chance. This is not the guy for us. We need to find someone else. And those decisions are going to be made over the next few years. So let's see. We've got our first game coming up very soon. Go Golden Knights.